So excited to talk to you again. We had a chance briefly during the Ted Lasso junket to kind of speak a little bit, and I was expounding, expunging, throwing out all my love for the Lawrence galaxy, I guess, the Empire,
Ah,
the different things you created. So I'm glad we got a chance to talk again. So first and foremost, I hope your day is going well.
it's going all right, man. It's weird end of days stuff in Los Angeles because it's so smoky and smoggy from all the wildfires and stuff. But it's a pleasure to talk to you, man. It distracts me a little.
Yeah, well, I'm always available for distraction, as I've told many women. Not many have taken it up, but I still try to throw it out there as an option. Better than end of days, I guess, is the my next selling point, as well as my current body temperature, COVID free. So those are my dating profiles right now, I guess. So let's kind of go into Ted Lasso first. After watching the full season and then now seeing you've seen all the reactions from the fans. What was your main emotion you kind of wanted to get out there to everyone when it came to Ted Lasso? Because it was so much deeper than a lot of people would have thought it would have been. I think a lot of people might have even thought it was going to be kind of a Saturday Night Live skit, when it comes to Jason Sudeikis, and he puts a mustache on a little bit too. But it was so much more than that.
You know what? The best thing for us as a creative team, we've loved that people responded to the optimism and hopefulness of the show. Because one of the things that we talked about, Jason especially, when we first started creating the show, was that we live in a world that comedic characters are cynical and edgy, and they're funny that way. But that Ted Lasso is kind of he's an optimist and he embodies hope, and he's a positive guy and he's kind. And we didn't plan on there being a pandemic and kind of one day after another of bad news and people maybe gravitating and needing that, gravitating towards and needing that. But we're glad they did. And we're psyched that they're responding to it. Other than that, man, as a creative team, we're all grateful because in the modern era of social media, connecting people and people not having much to do other than be on their computers, we get to hear responses in real time. I do want to apologize to everybody that feels annoyed that they only come out one episode a week. It drives me crazy too. But and beyond that, I think as we keep moving forward, it's what you said, man. And I think this is a show that sets up expectations and then hopefully dashes them in a good way.
Yeah, I think so too. And as we know, in this day and age of just here's the whole season, going back to that anticipation of waiting for the next one and waiting for next week. I mean, that's something I definitely grew up with, is the anticipation of next week, what's going to happen, or even season cliffhanger enders that we've all kind of grown up with that. So it's not a bad thing, especially if we want to kind of keep people along for the ride and let them kind of have something to look forward to, which I think is something very positive in this day and age too.
I get it, man. And plus, look, Apple's a new site. They can't just put something out and go, "Hey, I hope people watch it in one day," and then they'll come back here. So I totally agree with you. But I get itchy too. I'm the type of viewer that waits for a show to be all out, and then I watch all of them at once. But it'll be interesting to see if a lot of people did that as well.
Now, one of the things that I definitely wanted to talk to you about, when it comes to projects that you write on, and whether it's Ted Lasso or Scrubs or Cougar Town, or what is your writing room like? Is there laws according to Bill when it comes to your writing room? I mean, how do you kind of put not only your team together but also keep them on track and find the right groove for your show?
I think everybody you'll meet, almost in any industry, had a mentor. Hopefully, or somebody that helped them out. Especially, anybody that's kind of gotten anywhere. Without a doubt, Hollywood, you depend in some ways on the. We all hear bad stories about the bad folks and that are bigger than life in this industry. But a lot of us have these great stories of people that kind of mentored us and helped us out. And for me, it was a guy named Gary David Goldberg. He created Family Ties and Brooklyn Bridge and co-created Spin City with me. And I was only 25, 26. And he kind of taught me, his philosophy of running a writer's room, which was that it's a meritocracy, that your position doesn't really matter. Your title doesn't really matter. If you have something to contribute, you get to speak up. And everybody's idea and opinion matters as much as everybody else's, And on this particular room, Jason helped me do all the hiring. And it was really important, on this show and I guess on all shows, but on this show, to be kind of a very disparate, different type of writers' room, and that we needed. We always like to be diverse. We always like to have a great balance of male and females, but we also needed to have people from the UK. Do you know what I mean? That understood not only football, because they're bigger fans than us, but that were up to date on the lingo and the cultural norms there and the way people speak to each other on a day-to-day thing. The only weird thing is I got into TV writing partly because I love the community. I love the opportunity to hang out with talented young men and women, especially younger than me. I'm old, that kind of keep me young, and you get to, it's the greatest job in the world, man. You get to sit around a table and do this and shoot the breeze all day. Zoom has made it, and the era of not meeting face to face has made comedy writing tough, because you're looking at a bunch of boxes and taking turns trying to be funny and trying to contribute to the story and stuff. But no, the rules are meritocracy. Have a group of people that challenge you and that are different from yourself, because in the past, a lot of times TV shows would be staffed entirely by people that had the same voice and the same viewpoint as the head writer.
Right.
And on this show, the last thing is really leaning into Jason as a creative partner, because if he embraces something, the whole show's in his voice, it's going to work.
Well, I very much hear the voice, and all the characters are very singular, which I do love, and I do commend you on using football automatically, not fumbling to soccer first, because I asked the cast as well. What happens when you hear someone say soccer as opposed to football when it comes to your sport? So it's always a very interesting kind of mix. But yeah, the UK you could definitely feel, as well as you could sense some of the writing from that side too. I am a fan of British broadcasting as well, so I enjoy the humor there. And one thing I did want to ask you is, when exactly did you first see this in a game format, in a video game format? This right here. When did you see this? When were you aware that the Turk dance was something that was out there in the Fortnite world and it was getting recognized and recalled in a new way?
So funny, man. I saw it early because both my boys are huge Fortnite players, and they showed me that, and I'm like, oh, dude, I know that dance, and Donald's done so many interviews about it, man. He didn't even rehearse that. He had forgotten he needed to do that scene. This is how talented a kid he is. And he showed up on set, and he's like, oh, right, I got to do this. Let's hit it. And just crushed it, man. It makes me laugh. Look, the coolest thing, you're lucky enough to create a TV show, is that in this modern era of Netflix and streaming and Hulu and video games, it gets to live on in weird ways, and you get to see it in things like this. It really makes me smile, man. And anytime I've had occasion I had something like this with Chris Miller and Phil Lord, unbelievable writer, directors, animators, did Into the Spider-Verse,
Right.
And those two guys on high with me. And at one point when they swing through Times Square, there's a poster for the fake movie Clone College. I was like, cool. They shouted out the show we did. I love stuff like this, man.
That's awesome. Well, do you ever in the moment feel like fans will enjoy something like Eagle or Penny Can or things like that? Do you ever, once you start to chase after yourself, is it just about what makes you guys laugh and smile in the writer's room, and you're like, I think they're going to love it too?
It's a very insightful question, because look, one of the things about TV is if you chase something, because you think it's going to, get viral, or you think it's going to work as a show, it never works, man. It's so funny. I was lucky enough to write on the first year of Friends, And in the years after that, so many writers went in to do shows, and networks were like, "Why don't you do Friends in Los Angeles or Friends in?" And you'd be like, "Friends already exists, dude."
Right.
If people knew how to make it work, they'd do it all the time. Even now, one of the reasons I know that Ted Lasso is resonating for people is I have other projects that, the creative people involved have been calling up and saying, "Hey, this main character, what if you made this main character more optimistic and hopeful, like you do with Ted Lasso?" I'm like, "That was Ted Lasso, man. That, I don't know if it's going to work again." Um, but so that trying not to copy yourself is, I think, an ongoing theme for everybody that's kind of a creator of content out here. It's tempting, but if you do it over and over, it eventually catches up to you.
Well, and I thank you for that too, because of the fact that we have so many different revival shows now. Of course, all these different services are looking for content, and now people are going, well, what if we brought back this? We've brought back this. We're looking at Beverly Hills 90210. We're looking at Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So we're looking at a lot of things coming back, which some people are starving for. I mean, Cobra Kai has proved that. Not only on YouTube, but yeah, Netflix too. So there's
Awesome
definitely.
stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely love for it out there, but the want and the need for something fresh and new with a message and heart is definitely something that should not be left by the wayside in any case. So,
Hey, I'm not against reboots either, man.
yeah,
The best, to me, it's the difference too. When you talk about a reboot, if someone's, catching me up on characters I love and they're in a different place in their life and it's got something new to say, I'm on board. You know what I mean? And if it's just, continuing a show as if nothing happened in between 10 years later, I'm like, I already saw that show. But so I'm way down with reboots when they nail them.
right. Well, I mean, I know they're talking about making a community movie now too. So I mean, from TV, and they were looking for a movie, but that's the same exact thing. Everyone's trying to extend the story and give fans what they love. What was one of the things that I do kind of miss, though, is as we move into a digital age of downloading digital and things like that, are the things that I love that Scrubs kind of brought into play for me, which is the commentaries and all the extras and the things on those discs, which still make me laugh because I still remember the episode, but I also have a secondary, almost mirror memory of the commentaries and hearing Donald say something funny and then say, "Oh, I'll tell you guys after this commentary is over because I don't know if it's good enough to say now," or you guys talking about an episode or music. So do you kind of feel like we're missing a little bit of those kind of things as we move into just a download digital age, or is it opportunities with podcasts now maybe?
By the way, you're really good at this, man. Because look, I was going to say I do miss it, but I think that it's been replaced by the podcast industry. And look, Zach and Donald do this podcast that they were just doing as a goof initially to kind of connect to each other, called Fake Doctors, Real Friends, where they're supposed to revisit every episode of Scrubs and talk about it, but really they just talk about what they've been doing that week and goof around. And for me, it's been so nostalgic. I go on there once in a while, and it's gotten very successful. I'm really happy for those guys. It's a real nostalgic way to kind of get to revisit that and talk about what we went through those times in real time now. I mean, the funniest thing for me is realizing that Donald never really watched the show because he was, as a young guy out hitting the nightlife and enjoying his life back then. And so he's coming to it as a first-time viewer, which is really funny considering he was one of the stars. For me, even though I do miss the DVD commentaries, I feel that there are communities for shows, to talk about them and support them. And, I'm a big proponent that when you talk about whether it's Twitter or social media or different websites or podcasts, it's not really a great way to market television. I don't think that generally works,
Right.
But it is a great way to provide fans with access,
Right.
And for me, takes maybe 20 minutes to have an interaction with somebody about Ted Lasso and talk to them about what I thought and for them to hear what they thought. And that interaction A, it's rewarding for me, and B, I know I've got kind of a fan for life, on that show, and maybe even others, because I'll engage them about their opinions. I mean, before I got on with you this morning,
Right.
um, a young lady on Twitter was writing, oh, please don't let Roy be weird with Keely, so she goes back and sleeps with Jamie, and then they end up together. That's too typical. And I said, oh, just calm down and watch, and, and then she fired back to be something funny, and we went back and forth a little bit. And I think that's really kind of a cool thing that we didn't have in content creation when I started, kind of being able to engage people that are as invested as you are.
Right. Well, and that's something that I've told people before. I've actually been to colleges and talked about social media as well as entertainment and being a critic. But one thing I always tell people when it comes to social media and things like podcasts too, I say it isn't. A lot of people have to think it's like the new bullet to create new business. It's not that. Social media is for people who like you to like you more. Like that's
Yeah.
my opinion. I mean, that's where it's at, and I think it proves it with the fans. Like when they try to get a chance to connect with you or some of the actors and kind of find a little bit more. I feel like that's what social media is, and that's why I do enjoy about this whole world too.
I agree with you, and I think back, look, I started as a TV and movie fan, as I'm sure you did, and that's something I would have killed for back in the day, of the remote chance to have some access to people that were, working on and doing the thing that I thought was so fun and that kind of dominated my, my free time, and
Right.
to connect with them even on a small level, I would have felt even more engaged, especially if it was sincere. And I think that's just the game. I teach at this thing called the Showrunners Training Program at the Writers Guild, and to me, it can't be fake. If you're going to take the time to do it, you got to engage on a real level.
Now, speaking of real, how do you go about finding casts? I mean, are you surprised or do you just see something in them? I mean, when we look at your past casts, we look at, Scrubs, or we look at maybe even, Cougar Town. Like, what is it about finding these casts and then making them? Is it making them into something, or is it seeing that little kernel of possibility in them at the beginning?
Well, look, every show is different, okay, and that you have partners that kind of help do it. But I do have one philosophy of casting, which is different than some people, and I think it lends itself specifically to comedy, which is and Jason was was really kind of a key player in that on this show as well. Which is, I think, often, as is their right, some writers, especially drama writers, they'll write a pilot and create a world, and then they'll actively go out seeking actors and actresses who are exactly like the characters that they wrote. And one of the things I do, mostly comedies, and one of the things I've always believed is that you write your pilot and then you go out and try to find the funniest people, the absolute funniest people for those parts. And if there's certain parts of their persona that are different than what you wrote, you change the characters to suit them rather than them trying to change to suit the characters. And you do, so I think one of the things that philosophy hopefully gives you is you feel like characters are couldn't be played by anybody else. There's just a picture up of Sarah Chalk. It's a good example. Is when we cast Scrubs, we thought she was so funny, and but the character as written was this cold Connecticut girl who was a little dark and edgy from Greenwich and upper class. And Sarah was good at doing. And by the way, it's a trivia thing for Scrubs fans, because they wanted her to look edgier and a little meaner. There's one scene in Scrubs that we shot that she's wearing glasses at rounds,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
because, like, oh, look, she's an edgy kind of uptight girl. And she never wore glasses again in the 900 episodes we did. And we were all we shot that scene, so we couldn't get rid of it. But we were all talking afterwards, and I'm like, as soon as we said cut, Sarah talked 9,000 miles an hour. And then I went like this, and then I did over this, and then I was doing this, and when I went in my lines, I did this. And she was, always blowing her bangs out of her face, and so we just changed the character on the spot and said, you still have the same kind of background, but now you're going to be somebody that you never take a breath. You spit out all your lines in 2.5 seconds. You're as klutzy as you are in real life. And she embraced it. and kind of took ownership for it. So uh, uh, that's my belief in casting, and hopefully why you think that we do a good job at it is that the parts seem tailor made for the actors and actresses, because they are.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, and Sarah is definitely one that I've talked to over the years for different projects, and it makes me laugh because I think about that character, but then again, I hear her voice stuff like Rick and Morty, or even worse,
Yeah.
is Paradise PD, which is that much
Yeah.
harder and dirtier. So when I hear her say things like that, I'm like, was that her personality all along, or is this something that she's kind of like moved into a little bit? Like, has she always been that hardcore? So I don't know if there was
That's
any.
funny. Well, yeah, you look, because look, on a TV show lasts so long, to think that the characters, the ownership of the characters, isn't going to transfer from you over to the actors and actresses that play them, is silly, And look, if you ever listen to Donald and Zach's podcast,
Mm.
those idiots were playing occasionally playing exaggerated versions of themselves. You just got to hear them interact and talk once in a while. So, it's weird. It's rare. I can always remember the actors and actresses that were playing people that weren't anything like them, because it's rare. From like Ken Jenkins on Scrubs was such a kind man and such a paternal, grandfatherly guy. And so it was important on that show that even though he was the bad guy at first, that we eventually gave him some heart, and he eventually became a guy that you understood more, because that's who he was in real life.
Yeah. And it's funny, like like Johnny too. When I see him in different stuff, I automatically still see some of the little mannerisms he created, or maybe they were already in there for him for his character, and then I see them in other things, and I go, well, I wonder if that was something he brought in, or if that's something he's just kind of he liked and he kept as part of
I think there's certain qualities that these actors, and look, Judy Reyes, everybody would always go, wow, Carla had such she was so formidable and had such kind of inner strength. She really grounded the show. And I'm like, well, just see Judy in anything she does. She's got such kind of gravitas, really formidable woman, man. And she's going to bring that to stuff, So, look, I've long ago admitted that my professional strategy is to hitch my wagon to people far more talented than I am, and then take credit for their work, man. And so casting is just another example of that.
Well, I'm guessing there's some young bucks out there who are trying to do the same to you. As I was mentioning before, Dan Harmon, when I talked to him, he can say nothing bad about Judd Apatow. Like he wants to reach the plateau, if you will. So that's where he wants to be. And so it's funny how everyone kind of still has that mindset of, even if I've succeeded, I still want to be, that much better. So I know there's probably a lot of
it, man. You want my days? Look, my thing, and I've been talking about this a lot. Everybody's always looking up, and I like looking for. I said I really want to be kind and supportive to the young writers who I know are so good that they will be coming into their own right when I'm too old to be hireable anymore, and that I just need a big pack of people that feel like they owe me a last job. You know what I mean? It's like I always talk about Chris and Phil. I'm like, they're on the top. I mentioned them in interviews. I'm like, they're on the top of my list of dudes that I did one solid for long ago that maybe can give me a staff writing gig when I'm like 65. That's the plan. So that's instead of looking up, man, you look down. Come on.
Right.
Who's going to say you get to work a little longer when you don't understand what all these kids are talking about,
Well, and I guess the question is going to be, as we move into Lasso season 2, are we going to see you maybe as a background artist, as an extra, or maybe even direct? I mean, if we look here, we can see your positive work right here. So is there an opportunity for that, you think, or is there maybe even directing?
You know what? It's really funny, man. I've put myself in way too many of my shows when I was bored or hanging around. I'm a horrible actor. My wife enjoys telling everybody that not everybody's good at everything, and Bill's just an atrocious actor. The directing thing, I think it's really important on this particular one that we've almost uniformly gone with, except Zach, who was over there living in London, with British directors. If Jason was down for it, I'd probably direct one sometime, but just an excuse to be around the cast, more often. I think that would be awesome. But I don't know. I don't have the soccer skills to put myself in as a player. And so I'll probably try and think of something before the end to do some kind of cross or be some kind of idiot in the background. Haven't figured it out yet.
The
It's a good
ref,
idea.
maybe.
I got to do it without telling Jason so he sees it in the cut afterwards.
Right. Well, the problem with being a soccer player or even a ref is you got to have good calves. So you got to work. You got to make sure you do some running ahead of time and
Oh,
get
I know.
yourself ready.
Plus, by the way, we blew it. The first year, I should put it out eventually in the extras and stuff. Zach Braff's public knowledge now, but Zach Braff's girlfriend is British and an Oscar-nominated actress, and she, was hanging around and was a background player in one scene that we ended up having to cut, but it was fun because we all liked the idea of having an Oscar nominee in the show that didn't actually speak.
That's good.
So we do that stuff we do that stuff all the time, man.
Right. Maybe we need to have a practice field and the ball rolls out of bounds and then Dame Judi Dench picks it up and throws it back without saying anything. Yeah, just to throw it out there.
Or Marcus Mumford, was out there playing, and because that guy just killed it with all the music, and he was around once in a while. Any of that stuff, man. We'll try to slip in something cool like that.
That's fun. Well, and that's what podcasts are going to be for now. All those extra commentaries and fun too. I always have, when it comes to certain things that make me smile still, it's still season 2, episode 1, My Overkill, that I watch first when I go back to that. Yeah. And not only that, but that song as well. Cause it's connected together with it so much, the feeling of that episode, as well as remembering it, and also just, it's almost like that song kind of gives me changes the beat of my life and kind of upbeats it a little bit. So that's something that I really do enjoy.
I wrote and directed that one, I think, or I wrote it. I'm not sure if I directed it, but I love, and it sounds self-aggrandizing, but I'm just saying it because our show had such a cool relationship with Colin Hay, and they ended up interviewing a bunch of us when they did a documentary about him. And he was such an interesting cat, when it came to, not only his life and his music, but just comedically telling stories about his journey and stuff. And the fact that he came and killed, that acoustic version over and over live and in closets and in a morgue, was awesome, man. It's a great memory for me too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess it's about time I have to let you go, but it's always amazing to talk with you. I hope to talk to you again sometime. And, season 2 is going to be amazing. I'm so happy with, the scope of Ted's life that we get to see and the changes therein. And season 2 has so much more to give us, I think, that we've set up for now. So I'm very excited when that comes about. But episode by episode, we'll get there and we'll keep moving through Ted Lasso, and I just want to thank you again for talking with me.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. I love talking to fellow TV fans, and I know you are one. I'm a nerd too. Cobra Kai. I got to find out whoever's actually, I don't know who's you created that, who's behind it, but it's really good. I watch it with my boys. I appreciate it, and let's keep talking TV as we go forward, okay?